Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides, and as you can see, I am all alone tonight. Jake is out sick, so for those of you with us on Discord, send him, warm wishes that he gets better soon, and that you're thinking about him, and that you miss him. Comment on the video if not, and tell him that you miss him, because we all obviously miss his insights to these games. And we're talking about his Tennessee Volunteers. So I hope he's watching this longingly, like looking out at the, out the window at kids playing in the park, and he's unable to, unfortunately. So we hope he gets better soon. We'll be back tomorrow night with a hockey show, which will be a lot of fun. But in the meantime, we've got some great Wednesday games, and we're going to start off with IUPUI in Detroit, winless Detroit, because at this point, who is not talking about the winless college basketball team? That's not like Mississippi Valley State, right? That's like a real team that actually had a competent player, a really good player last year. We're going to start off there, but first, a little recap here. And I've debated doing this, and I talked about I'm recording this on Tuesday night. And so this is Wednesday's show. Many of you are going to be watching this Wednesday morning. All of Tuesday's results are in. They aren't in right now, so I can only recap Monday. Monday was a very ho-hum day. Plays of the day split. A grade totals split. But I can tell you, and it'll be in the recap tomorrow, that both of the plays of the day on Tuesday, both side and total, both won, continuing the awesomeness of the plays of the day that'll increase that 12% ROI. I'll get even higher here, at least for one day, with both those plays of the day winning. The totals are the only things we give A grades to at this point. They have done very well this season in the show picks. Don't know how Tuesdays went. One of them is happening. The first one lost. One of them's happening right now. The other will happen later. So we'll recap that later. But just trying to see how that feels. That felt okay, I guess. I don't know. We'll start off with the aforementioned IUPUI in Detroit Mercy, or Detroit, I don't know which one you call it. And folks, this is going to be terrible basketball. Detroit Mercy is winless. That doesn't mean they're the worst team in college basketball. Part of that's your schedule, right? And who you're playing. They've played a tougher schedule, and they are very bad. But I mean, it's hard to be the worst because 362 teams worth, there's a handful of teams behind them. Sideline has them, it looks like, at 349th. So they're only, whatever that is, 13th, 14th worst. That's really bad. It has IUPUI as fourth worst. I know there's some other advanced metric system that have them even worse. And when you're this bad, you're bad on offense, you're bad on defense, you're bad at everything you do. And so we've talked a lot this season about how the offenses are better. I saw on Twitter today someone who had kind of gone through the classification, the grade classifications of players, and the impact the players are having by that, and the seniors are having a bigger impact. And all those seniors are all COVID seniors with that extra year of eligibility. We've talked about this all season, that's made the offenses take a step ahead. The game's a little bit more like the NBA, a little bit more reliance on the three-point shot, the foul change for the charge block thing. And these top offenses are just a step ahead of the top defenses on average. That when you're really on offense, it really is the key, obviously, to what's driving the average points per game in college basketball to hover around 145 this year, which is the highest it's been in quite some time. And, it's obviously the offense is driving it, right? But it's the top offenses that are driving it. It's the Arizonas of the world. It's the Purdue's of the world. The bottom offenses don't have that because they already had seniors sticking around. The issue was like with NIL, for instance. Now better seniors are sticking around, better juniors are sticking around because you can make some money in college, or you can go be a second round pick and play in the D League for 2 years. You actually have a choice, right? At the bottom, those guys are already staying. They weren't going pro. And so, yes, the extra year of eligibility helps, but there's only so much talent at these places like this. And that's no offense. They're obviously much better basketball players than I am. We're just only because we're comparing them to the top of the top, right? And so all that to say, we've been saying it all year, and I go through this. If you've been with us, you're like, yeah, dude, I know, get on with it. So I apologize for that. But if you're newer with us, we've been talking about this all year. The bottom of the barrel basketball, college basketball this season, is still a lower scoring game. It has not seen that point boost like we've seen across the rest of basketball. It's been a small bump. And that's what we have here. Just bad basketball. It's not going to see quite that same point boost as usual. That doesn't mean this game can't go over. Anything can happen in one game. But putting this at 143 is almost as if the odds makers are looking at this and saying, these teams are a little bit slower. Maybe we'll drop it a point or two. But in reality, the model having it at about 140 is saying, look, these teams are a little bit slower and they aren't that good on offense. And obviously they aren't that good on defense, but the defense, the fact that these teams are good on defense is kind of irrelevant to these offenses just aren't built to take advantage of it. And so the model's projecting 140 points. It's a B grade under. What like a pick on this game because everyone's talking about this is Detroit Mercy's one of their few chances to get a win on the season. They're favored in this game because they're home against another terrible team. Maybe they get it done. If you could root for them to get off the schneid. We like a good underdog story, and root for those kids, right? Or you can root against them, if you want to just see them go over or whatever. And whatever you want to do, we don't have to care. We're going to go under. And the last thing I want to do is talking about this. Both these teams are about 50-50 to the over, over under this year. But for the most part, when these teams are going over, I'm going to go through a couple of examples here. They're going over because they're giving up a ton of points. IUPUI's last game went over. They gave up 92 to Purdue Fort Wayne. The game before that went over. They gave up 87 to Milwaukee. The game before that, according to Covers.com, push. They gave up 79 to Green Bay. The game before that was Wright State. They gave up 83. They actually scored 76 because Wright State plays insanely fast. The game before that, they gave up 78, still went under. The game before that, they gave up 80, still went under. The game before that was for IUPUI. Again, they won. They scored 85 points. That was one of the weirder games of the season. The game before that, they went over. They gave up 88 to Oakland. Game before that went under. Game before that went under. Game before that went under as well. Most of the time, as you can see here, game before that went over, they have 86. All that to say, when they're going over, it's because they're giving up 80 to 90 points. And if you know anything about Detroit this year, you're not really expecting that because Detroit only does that against the top teams. If we flip to Detroit now and talk about them, their last game went under. The game before that, Wright State. Again, Wright State just plays really fast. Throw that out the window. Both games before that went under. The game before that went over against Green Bay. They only scored 64. They allowed a bunch of points. Game before that went over. They only scored 71. They allowed a bunch of points. That was to Milwaukee, a team that we talked about, took IUPUI over. Game before that went over. They allowed 105. They only scored 64. They had that weird triple overtime game against Robert Morris that they almost won. I think, if you're with us on Discord, we were talking about that one in the chat because they were 0 and whatever at the time. But all that to say, I will stop going through this because I'm sure you're bored by now. IUPUI, for the most part, goes over when they give a bunch of points. Detroit, for the most part, goes over when they give up a bunch of points. I don't see them giving up a bunch of points to each other. They've already played once this year. The game went way under. I don't really think that was an aberration. So we're going to go under. B grade pick. And as always, we do remind you, though, shop around. 143 is a B grade. You need another 1.5, 2 points really for an A grade. I don't know where the number goes. I don't know if you can get there, but you always want to shop around and find the best price possible. You can do that by adding another book to your repertoire. If you don't already have them, BetUS, link in the show description to sign up and get 125% sign up bonus on your first deposit and tons of free bets. As always, we appreciate our sponsors and we appreciate you listening to a few words from them.
BetUS, America's favorite sports book, where you can bet on everything anytime. Sportsbook, live betting, and casino. To celebrate 30 years in business, we have the best bonuses in the industry. Get a 125% sign-up bonus and up to 30 risk-free bets. So what are you waiting for? Join now. BetUS, where the game begins.
That'll take us to 8:30 p.m. Eastern, Iowa and Maryland. Going to give you a little sneak peek of the benefits that you get on Dub Club. You get this for every single game. First piece there, it's just in chart form. I just cut the one game out for you, but you get all the games listed right there, all the ratings, all the projections, probabilities, all sorts of goodies as well. And as you can see by taking a look at that, Maryland's the home team. They're favored in this game. We think they should be favored by an average of 2 to 3. Something in that ballpark. Model says they win 58% of the time. It's priced relatively well. The Big Ten's gotten a little bit weird as of late. That whole, just back the home team thing, as we kind of predicted, kind of ran its course at the beginning of the season. And now we're back to, road teams can't win. It's not easy, but it is possible. So we're not going to talk about the side. We're going to talk about the over. We're going to go over 144. Model predicts about 149 on average. And you can see there on screen part of the reason why, of course, is that pace from Iowa, 22nd fastest in the country. And, this is one where I mentioned IUPUI and Detroit played each other already, and that game went under. Iowa and Maryland have played each other already. That game also did go under. And I think it's where we're getting some value on this number because that game actually stayed south of 140, landed at 136. But I don't necessarily think that was very representative. Iowa shot like 3 of 25 or something like that from 3. The first half of that game was really slow. The second half played out about like we would have expected. There were 74 points in the second half, and I don't really think it was a ton of late fouls because it was only a 2-point game. So it wasn't like it was an 8-point game with 20 points at the end because of fouls. In that one, I think the first half was just an aberration. One of the things we talk about a lot here in the college basketball season, you play 30 games, you're going to have up to 5 where you play just way over your head good and up to 5 where you play just terrible. And that also applies with, not knowing if the other team, what they're going to do too, because sometimes you play really well and your opponent doesn't. Just everything's clicking, and it's just a heavyweight fight, and it's just a fantastic game. And sometimes you get lucky and your bad game coincides with someone else's bad game, right? And sometimes they don't, and that's when you have just these massive, weird results, which we always see in college basketball, where everyone's really surprised. I think of Cincinnati winning at BYU being one of those, where BYU just had a terrible game, Cincinnati a great game, right? These two teams playing that first game, I think that first half was just a little bit of an anomaly. I don't really think that's representative. Obviously, Iowa, we trust them more to score at home than on the road, but we still trust Iowa's defense to give up a bunch of points. Doesn't really matter where they're playing. Their last road game at Penn State went over. They've got over in 3 of their last, no, it should be 4 of their last 5, 4 of their 5 road conference games here this calendar year. So they can give up some points on the road. They've scored a few points on the road too. It hasn't been all bad. They did beat Minnesota and cover the number there. So they can score some points. Kind of doesn't really matter where, even though we typically do talk about their impressive home, offensive output. They're 16 overs to 8 unders on the season. And the flip side of that is true for Maryland. Maryland's much more of an under team than over. And so, of course, that's where you have to be concerned a little about this. But this is all about the number. And one of the things we always talk about, we're going to win a lot of picks. We're going to lose a lot of picks. And that's why I just have no tolerance for, people pointing out, oh, this is a terrible pick. We're going to win a bunch. We're going to lose a bunch. That's not it. And nobody out there is going to be able to just give you nothing but winners, right? That's ridiculous. What we try to do here, and many of you already know this, so again, I'm just preaching to the choir, but in case we have someone new today, right, I want to make sure you're hearing me loud and clear. What we're trying to do is find numbers that are worthy of playing because we win them more times than we lose them, enough to grow our bankroll. And that's what that opening slide with that recap hopefully illustrated to you that we've done, and that we've lost like 400 some odd A-grade totals, but we've won way more than we've lost. And so the probability this wins is, 55, up close to 60%, right? Probably not above that. But upper 50s or so of this, where we maybe up to 6 out of 10 times we win this. And it's all about the number here, because I know Maryland can be an under team. Absolutely. But this is about that number at 144. The fact that we win with half of the numbers in the 140s is what makes this valuable, because there's a really good chance this game gets in the upper 140s. And we're going to win. There's a chance it lands in the lower 140s. Absolutely, right? There's no locks in gambling. But the fact that we win on all those numbers in the 140s and anything gets in the 150s, that's what makes this number valuable. If this number's at 146.5, it's one of those where if you made me pick something, I probably would tell you to go over, but I'm not really loving it. The 144 is the lowest that we can give the A grade designation to. And so that's where the value is. Anything lower than that, absolutely great. If the number happens to go down, hallelujah. Hopefully you always get better than numbers than I do, because you're shopping around and taking advantage of that. We don't try to do that here because we don't want to just make everything artificially look good. So we take consensus numbers. The consensus number this night's 144, and that's the number that we are going to officially go over with the A-grade pick. And if you can get anything better, great, but we like the number here, not anything higher. Anything higher, 144.5, 145. Now you're talking about B grade. Still would play it, just pull back a little bit because we're giving up some of that value. It's all about the value proposition here, because we know we're going to lose some. All we're trying to do is win, 11 out of 20 with regards to these totals. And again, if you are interested in getting all of the picks, all the A-grade picks, all whatever 1,000 that we've given away this year for college basketball, you can go on Dub Club. If you're with us on YouTube, take out your phone, QR code, scan it right there. You get $5 off your first month, or whether you're on YouTube or listening on audio only, the link in the show description, it's like the second link down there. It's the bolded paragraph if you're on audio only. If not, it's right after the list of games. Takes you there, $5 off your first month. Come check it out. You get Discord access, ad-free shows. You get the hockey model, baseball coming around. We have a lot of great things to check out over on Dub Club. That'll wrap us up with Tennessee and Arkansas here, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's Arkansas team. We've talked a lot about this year with regards to fading them. We've made a lot of money fading them. They've been very disappointing. People thought they'd figure it out. They've tended to start slow and kind of figure things out later, and it just hasn't happened this year for whatever reason. Tennessee obviously should be favored on the road. It's priced pretty well right now, I think, with regards to sides. So we're going to give you a third total of this episode. We do have a side play of the day and available for you on Dub Club. I'm going to talk about it on the extended cut right after the music here, after we get done with this game, along with another total for the A grade total of the day. But here we're going to finish off the free pick show with the over 150 as an A grade pick, average points right in the mid 150s. And this, again, is another situation we've talked about before. This is the lowest you can go, or the highest you can go for the A grade. We want that push protection on 150. We want to make sure if it gets to 150, we don't lose. Arkansas plays fast. They've been an over team. Tennessee plays a little faster than usual, and they have a great defense, but their offense has been pretty solid as well. This one's pretty straightforward. Tennessee's 14 overs to 8 unders. Arkansas 16 overs to 7 unders. There's really nothing that we've seen recently from these teams to make us change our minds with regards to that. Tennessee's gone over in their last 3. Arkansas's gone over in their last 3. There have been some weird results, absolutely. Arkansas went under against Kentucky, and again, that didn't even sniff the total of 163. So there's absolutely a chance that something weird can happen here with regards to the outcome of this game. Teams can get cold. Teams can decide as a game plan to do something different that we just have no information about. But this is a situation that we've preached all season where there's a handful of teams that we've kind of just said, hey, I think the model is catching something the market is missing. And Tennessee overs have been one of those. We've played a decent amount of them. Even when the model hasn't recommended them, we've talked to Jake and been like, hey, what do we think about this? And taking advantage of some of them then. And so this is another situation where the over, I think, makes a little bit of sense because while Tennessee has a good defense, the market still seems to be struggling to catch up with the fact that they're good on offense, a little bit faster. Anytime they play a team like Arkansas, you have to like the over. So 150 lowest, or the highest, number that we can get for an A grade there. Anything in the 150s, low 150s would be dropping to a B grade. Which wraps us up for the free show. There's your recap slide. Again, if you're new with us, listen to the music and read the slides on the way out. If you haven't read them in a while, maybe do that. Just a good reminder of some of our betting principles and things that we believe in around these parts. If you're with us on Dub Club, you have the exclusive link to the extended cut where after the music, I'll talk about the plays of the day. Hopefully we see you there.